We tend to think a lot these days in New Testament terminology, and we tend to compare the Old Testament, that they were under the law and they lived by works, and we are in a new covenant now where we live by faith. But I just want to put it to us that the relationship with God and salvation has always been by faith. And the Old Testament, while the law prevailed in the Old Testament, the purpose of the law was more to help to preserve the seed to come into the world than for people to be saved by the law. Nobody was ever saved by the law or by keeping the law. But God gave the law to Israel in order to preserve them. And just so you'll understand how that works, the law preserves the society, because when you force people to behave a certain way, when you force people to abide by rules, you prevent them from killing off each other, from abusing each other, and so on. So societies operate under law for the protection of itself. And so God put Israel under the law in order to preserve them. It was especially important for him to do that because he was bringing the seed into the world to save humanity through the nation of Israel, to fulfill his promise to Abraham. And because this was important, it was extra important for him to preserve Israel. So he wasn't preserving Israel necessarily because Israel was such a nice bunch of people and he loved them more than anybody else. But he had made a commitment to bring the seed Messiah into the world, and if Israel destroyed themselves, then he could not fulfill the promise of bringing Messiah through Abraham's seed. So it was important to God that he preserve Israel, but it was also important to us. Habakkuk 2 and verse 4 tells us that the just shall live by his faith. And that's Old Testament. And you'll find other references to that in the Old Testament. But I'm putting it to you. Abraham, we're told that Abraham believed God and it was counted unto him for righteousness. Hebrews chapter 11 has all these accounts of people who walked in faith in the Old Testament. And so I just want us to bear in mind today that there is nothing else as important to your salvation than faith. And in all your getting, get faith. In all your pursuit of righteousness, ensure that you pursue faith. I'm going to look at a few passages of scripture. The first one is in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 30. And it is well known. It says, "Wherefore, if God so clothe the grass of the field, which today is, and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith?" We know this verse so well that sometimes we probably don't even think of the meaning of the verse. But let's think of what it is saying here. You look at the grass out there, you look at the trees, you look at the plants out there. They put on leaves, fresh leaves. They are taken care of, and their purpose for many of them, it says here, is cast into the oven because they use it, they burn it, do all kinds of things with them. We go there and we plant our things and we weed up the grass and we throw it away or we burn it. He's saying if God looks after even the very grass of the field, which is transient, it's here today, gone tomorrow, shall he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? But you know what? So many times we find ourselves worrying about the next meal, worrying about what you should put on, worrying about things that are passing. And Jesus is saying here, Why are you worrying about this when your God looks after grass? And of course, we know he talks about the sparrow and birds and bees and all the things out there. He's looking after them. He makes sure you know, when I go up into the country sometimes, and in the early morning, you hear birds all around. You see them. Every single bird comes out in the morning. They did not store anything. They don't have banks. They don't have fridges. They don't have cupboards. They get up every morning and they go out with the assurance, I'm going to get my meal for today. And they go out and you see them jumping around and they're getting seeds and they're getting worms or they're getting insects, whatever they're getting. They are getting their food for the day. They have the assurance that if they get up and go out, they're going to get food. But God's people who claim to have faith, who claim to trust him, they are worrying. What am I going to eat? I don't have anything for tomorrow. The last food I have is for today. I don't have anything for tomorrow. Get up tomorrow. God is going to give you food. I don't know what I'm going to wear to work tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to wear to church, or I don't know what I'm going to put on. The same suit of clothes I have, I can't keep on wearing this every week. God is going to clothe you, and if that's the one that you have to put on, put it on. O ye of little faith. And I'm going to look at Matthew chapter 9 now, from verse 20. Behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, if I may touch his garment, I shall be whole. Don't ignore what this woman said. She said to herself, I just want to touch just his garment, just the clothes he has on. And I know if I can touch that, I shall be whole. What kind of faith is that? What kind of faith is it that was in this woman that made her think just to touch the little garment, the little clothes? Nothing for him to feel. As he's passing by, just reach out and touch the clothes as it passes, and I'm going to be whole. Brethren, do we have that kind of a faith? Just a brush passing by, just a garment, a piece of cloth. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, Daughter, be of good comfort. Your faith has made you whole. Your faith has made you whole. Recognize what it was that healed her. Jesus said it was her faith. Sometimes we struggle in life. Sometimes life is challenging and difficult. Sometimes we don't get the things we want simply because we don't have the faith. Simply because we don't believe it. The woman said, if I touch the garment, I'm going to be whole. I'm going to be healed. If she had said, if he touches me, I will be healed, then she would have been fighting to get him to touch her, and she would never be healed unless he turned around and touched her. The level of her faith. But her faith said, if I touch the garment, I will be healed. She was healed. I go down to verse 29 of the same chapter. Two blind men followed him, crying, Thou son of David, have mercy on us. When he was come to the house, the blind men came to him. Jesus said unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? They said unto him, Yea, Lord. Then touched he their eyes, saying, According to your faith be it unto you. Now, why didn't they touch his garment? Their faith didn't say, if I touch his garment. Their faith said he needs to do something. And so they were saying, have mercy. They kept on walking behind him and bothering him, saying, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on us. Do something for us. Jesus said, do you believe that I can do this? And they said, yes, Lord. So they had faith. But their faith was the faith that required a touch. So he said, according to your faith, be it unto you. He said to the woman, your faith has made you whole. Now he says to these two men, according to your faith, be it unto you, brothers and sisters, according to your faith, according to the level of your faith, according to the measure of your faith, be it unto you. Faith is the victory. Faith is the victory that overcomes the world. I'm going to bring another one. Jesus came to a fig tree and he wanted fig. And the thing had only leaves. It had no figs on it. No fruit. Jesus said, and he saw nothing but leaves. He said, you don't provide meat for the Son of God. Let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. And listen to me. If the Son of God comes to you and he's looking for fruit to be borne by you and he finds nothing, think about it. Where we should be is that the prince of this world cometh and findeth nothing in me. But if the Son of God comes, he should find fruit, much fruit, abundant fruit in me. But sometimes it's the inverse. Sometimes when the prince of this world comes, he finds much fruit for his kingdom in the professed people of God. The professed people of God are bringing forth fruit, meat for the kingdom of the devil. And when the Son of God comes, he finds no fruit. When the disciples saw what happened, they marveled, saying, how soon is the fig tree withered away? Listen, you're going to wither away if you're not bearing fruit for the kingdom of God. You're going to wither away spiritually. Some people wonder why their spiritual life is suffering. Some people wonder why it is that they've been going to church for so many years and they've been returning their tithes and they've been studying the Bible and so on. They are not bearing fruit, and your spiritual life is going to wither away if you're not bearing fruit. The disciples were amazed at the power of Jesus to curse the fig tree. And he said to them, truly I say unto you, if you have faith and doubt not, you shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if you shall say to this mountain, be thou removed and be cast into the sea, it shall be done. All things whatsoever you ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive. According to your faith, be it unto you. Faith is a victory. Faith is a victory that overcomes the world. I'm going to go to another one. This was when the centurion came about his servant. His servant was sick. The centurion sent elders to the Jews, asking them to ask Jesus to come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, the Jews came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy. The centurion was worthy, for he loves our nation and he has built us a synagogue. You see what makes people worthy in people's minds? You see what humanity looks at? He built a church for us. This is a good man. He loves our nation. He loves the Jews. He loves our people. And he built a church for us. So he's worthy. You can do this for him, Jesus, because him deserve it. And how often do we as Christians fall into the same position where we become respecters of persons because of things that they do, because of things that they do in our favor, because they do things that please us. Then we think this person is worthy of the kingdom, this person is worthy of God's thing. Jesus went with them. And while he was on the way, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, don't trouble yourself. I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof. Now look at the difference. The Jews said this man is worthy because he loves our people and he built us a church. But the centurion says, I am not worthy. I am not worthy that you should come under my roof. This man was more righteous than these people. This man was more knowledgeable and respectful of God and the things of God than these people, because he knew that he did not deserve for Jesus to come, because he was not as he thought he should be, whatever it was, as a soldier. And he said, verse 7, wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto you. I didn't think I was worthy to come to you. But that's why I just sent. So he sent servants to go tell Jesus, don't come. I'm not worthy for you to come into my house. And that's why I sent people to you, because I didn't think I was even worthy to come to you. Now this man is a centurion. He's a big man in the army. So here's what he says. I also am a man set under authority. He says also, that means he's rating Jesus as a man also with authority. Having under me soldiers, and I say unto one, go, and he goeth, and to another, come, and he cometh, and to my servant, do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned him about, and said unto the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel, not in the whole of Israel have I seen anybody with this kind of faith. This was a Roman centurion, a soldier in the army. He wasn't any man in any synagogue. He wasn't one of the priests or the Levites. He was not a churchman. He was a soldier. But something else to note is that he had a good heart, because his servant was sick and he wanted healing for the servant. But he didn't think himself worthy to come to this bigger man than himself. He said, I know that you can do this. I know that you have authority to do this. I know what authority is like, because I have authority over soldiers, and I tell them do whatever do, and they obey me. So you have the authority. This man knew that Jesus had the authority to command sickness and disease. And he knew that Jesus didn't even have to come where he was to do it, because Jesus had the authority. Now here we are in 2022. And there are people here who are professing godliness, professing to know God, professing to be children of God. And we believe that Jesus is not only on earth anymore, but he has returned to heaven, and all power is given to him. God gave him his Spirit. But we don't have this faith. We don't think he can heal. We don't think he can provide food for us. We don't think he can take care of our day-to-day needs. Small things. Centurion said, you don't even have to come here. You can stay in Timbuktu and my servant can be healed because you have the authority. Jesus said, all power is given me in heaven and in earth. Do we believe that, brethren? Faith is the victory that overcomes the world. Then you can imagine that with all this going on, and the disciples recognizing that their faith wasn't up to par, like we today probably do recognize that our faith is not up to par. And so the disciples turned to Jesus and they said in Luke chapter 17 and verse 5, increase our faith. Brothers and sisters, we need to ask Jesus to increase our faith. But look at Jesus' response to this. Jesus said, if you had faith as a grain of mustard seed, you might say to this sycamore tree, be thou plucked up by the root, and be thou planted in the sea, and it should obey you. So if you have a big mango tree and you want it to be moved, you can say to the mango tree, move from here and go plant over there, and it would obey. Now that's really amazing. That's really big and powerful to think about. But he continues. Remember, they ask him to increase our faith. They want increased faith. You and I want increased faith. I'm going to tell you today, brethren, God is not going to God don't have any vial with any faith in it. God doesn't have any magic potion with faith in it that you open your mouth and he pours it down your mouth and your faith grows. He doesn't have an injection needle with faith in it to push it into your arm and your faith grows. That's not how faith goes. God cannot put anything in you to increase your faith. So he's talking to the disciples who said, increase our faith. And so he says, which of you, having a servant plowing or feeding cattle, will say unto him by and by, when he's come from the field, go and sit down to meat? Which of you have a servant? The servant is out there working in the field. He's feeding your cattle, he's plowing, and when he comes in, which of you are going to say, go sit down and eat some food now? And will not rather say unto him, go and prepare something for me to eat, and put on your apron and serve me, till I have eaten and drunken, and afterward you can eat and drink? Isn't that how people treat their servants today? The servants are to look after me. And when you finish looking after me, then you look about yourself. That's what he's saying. Does the master, verse 9, does he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded him? I trow not. Why doesn't he thank him? Verse 10 says, so likewise ye, when ye shall have done all these things which are commanded you, say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do. Why doesn't he thank the servant? Because it's his job. It's his duty. That's what he's being paid for. That's what he's employed for. He's employed to go and plow in the field and feed the cattle and so on, and to come and to cook food and give the master. That's your job. You are getting your reward for it. And so don't look for thanks for the things that are your normal day-to-day job. Don't look for people to say thanks to you for doing what you're supposed to do. And so he says, so likewise you, when you have done the things that Jesus has commanded you to do, don't think that, hey, I get credit now and God must save me now because I'm doing the right things. Don't think that because you are being kind to others, that you are praying and you're reading your Bible and you're returning your tithe and offerings, don't think that now makes you worthy to be saved. Don't think that gives you stars. You just say, we have done that which was our duty to do. And when you recognize what it is your duty to do, so what's our duty to do? Our duty, what is it that God has commanded us to do? What is it that Jesus has commanded us to do? Jesus says, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another. And I want you to understand what that means. That doesn't mean that your heart going to just get mushy for each other. The love he's talking about is how you treat others, how you deal with people. This is the commandment that Jesus has given us, that we treat people good, that we have compassion upon them. When you see people hungry, you deal your bread to feed the hungry. When you see people thirsty, you find something to give them to drink. When you see people naked or improperly clad, we find something to help them. This is love. This is what you're doing for people. And when you do that, don't go and say, I am such a good Christian, I'm doing all these wonderful things. I gave the windshield wiper guy $200 instead of $100. I'm a good Christian guy. You're simply doing what you're supposed to do. And when you do that, your faith increases because you now are trusting God. You now are trusting Him to direct your life. Too many people feel that by doing certain things, you see, we say we're not under the law, we're not under the system of the law anymore. We're under grace, and we're living by faith, and we are in the dispensation of the Spirit, and all these nice words. Sounds good. But at the same time, in our minds, we are keeping tally of how good we are, how much we match up to what God expects. And we're expecting, okay, certainly God is going to save me because I'm such a good Christian now. I'm doing the right things. Once I used to steal, but I don't steal anymore. So I'm going to be saved. Once I used to tell lies. Once I used to have a bad temper, and that's gone. Those are not credits to you. Those are supposed to be what happens to you when you surrender to God, when you receive the life of Christ. And so it's no credit to you. It's God changing you. It's the life of Christ that's making you a better person. And so when you're doing those things that you're commanded to do, it's not to your credit. Your faith lets you know that it's the outworking of the Spirit of God in you. And so increase our faith, Lord. What are we to do? There's a world out there that needs Jesus. There's a world out there that needs to know what true love is. Not doctrine. Not too much of trying to beat people over the head with doctrines. And I am right about this and you are wrong about that, and therefore I am a little higher up on the ladder than you are because me know the truth and you don't know it. And like some people like to talk about how most of these people keep 9 commandments but we keep 10. So we're a little bit better up. Those things are no credit to any of us. When we do good, it's the Spirit of God in us that leads us, and therefore don't take no credit for it. Increase our faith. Our faith tells us that any good in me is Christ. Any good thing I do is Christ. It is my duty. It is my pleasure. We are unprofitable servants, so it's our pleasure to be able to do these things, because when we were not servants of God, we couldn't even do those things. We had no desire to do good things. But thank God He sent Jesus to redeem us and to give us the inclination and the urge to surrender. And now that we have surrendered, Jesus is making us good people. Thank God for that. Faith is the victory that overcomes the world. Faith is the victory. Brothers and sisters, surrender to Christ. That's all you need to do. Don't watch actions. Do what He bids you do. I won't forget Jesus' first miracle when they went to the wedding and Jesus' mother tell him that they don't have any wine. And Jesus said to her, "Lady, why are you doing this to me?" She don't even pay him any mind. She just turned to them and said, "Anything He tells you to do, do it. Anything He tells you to do it." Mary knew Jesus. She knew the heart of Jesus. She knew what kind of a person He was. And she knew that He would do only good. Do we know the heart of Jesus? Do we trust Him? Do we have that faith and confidence that whatever He tells me to do is only good? Do we have the confidence that whatever He does to me is only for my good? That's where our problem lies. We think, we right back at the Adam syndrome. I want to choose right from wrong. I know what's right for me. And so if God says to me, do something, I've seen so many situations in life where people think they know more than God. I've seen one example is young people in school who accept the Sabbath, and they know that the Sabbath ought to be reserved as a day for fellowship with God. But because the school system, the world system tells them that 5 days a week can't cut it, we're having classes on Saturday, and if you don't come, you're likely to fail. And so guess what? Many of these young people, they go to Saturday classes because it's important for them to pass that exam. And so they go ahead and they sacrifice the relationship with God on the Sabbath for their worldly gains. They think that they're doing what's better for them. And that's where the choice comes in. When you think you know more than God, you do things that you think are better for you. But when God is in charge of your life, you do only what He says to do. Whatever He says unto you, do it. Don't try to reason through it and to question it. If God says this is what you should do, Don, do it. If God says this is what you should do, Leslie, do it. If God says this is what you should do, Julia, do it. Brothers and sisters, unless we get to the point where our faith and trust in God is impeccable, unquestioning, we're always going to be bawling, increase our faith. Lord, my faith is weak. How long have we been crying out for more faith and it not happening? How long, every time we think our faith is getting stronger, we let ourselves down, it gets back weak. Whatever He says unto you, do it. We are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do. What is our duty to do? Our duty is to take the gospel to every nation, to take the gospel, the good news of salvation in Jesus. We ought to take it to every person on earth. Look at Jamaica. Nearly 3 million people. Yes, we are saturated with churches. But look at Jamaica. Don't make church fool you, because we have an abundance of people in this little country who need the Lord. Whether in church or out of church, people need the gospel, the good news of salvation in Jesus. And I don't mean preaching. I don't mean go and preach the gospel to people. I mean, let people see the living gospel. They will know we are Christians by our love. Does my faith lead me there? Does my faith lead me to love the people around and to do the duty that Christ has commanded me to do in reaching out to them? Faith is a victory that overcomes the world.